It should come as no surprise that as the world sees itself facing a possible pandemic courtesy of the COVID-19 coronavirus, we're starting to contemplate a very real possibility that the next generation console launches, which are officially still slated for this holiday season, may find themselves slipping into next year. You may be tempted to dismiss this as media-fueled hysteria and panic, and believe me when I say that has been my reaction for the better part of the last few weeks, as such think pieces have grown increasingly common. But at this point, I think the time has come to admit that this is a very real possibility. There are many moving pieces that go into a console launch, and just one of those being disrupted can have catastrophic ripple effects for everything else. An easy example? As a result of having to move the Saturn launch up by 4 months, Sega couldn't stock all retailers with the console at first, which caused many of the spurned retailers to blacklist Sega and refuse to stock the console at all, further perpetuating the insurmountable lead the PlayStation was already gathering at the time. The existence of the coronavirus is throwing just such a wrench in many of those moving pieces. The most obvious impact it's having is on manufacturing and shipping. Given that the virus is highly contagious and may also be communicable by surfaces, there is a chance of it spreading through simple electronic shipments. Essentially, at any point, if anyone with the coronavirus handles the console shipments, there's a chance that the virus lives on the surface of the console boxes, or whatever part was touched, and is then transmitted to a healthy person when they touch it next. Even not accounting for the possibility of remote transmissions through surface contact, however, the simple fact that the virus exists is highly communicable, and that there are multiple incidences of it in China, which is also where most electronics in the world, including consoles, are manufactured, means that those factories and production lines have to shut down now. They have to, because otherwise one unwitting victim could pass it on to everyone else who works there, and that worker could also conceivably lead to the virus spreading far beyond just that factory, through the possibility of surface transmission. This isn't just me performatively clutching at straws either, mind you. We've already started to see real tangible effects of electronic shortages caused by coronavirus-induced disruptions. The Samsung Galaxy S20 is all but impossible to find in stores, and closer to the gaming sphere, Nintendo has confirmed that Switch supplies, at least in Asia and Japan, are going to be severely constrained as a result of production being impacted. Meanwhile, the fitness game Ring Fit Adventure has seen similar shortages in the West. If the situation with this virus doesn't improve soon, and it has to be soon, because if the consoles are to launch this November, production of the final models has to start in a few weeks at the very latest, then we're faced with the very real prospect of them slipping into next year. The counterpoint to this line of thinking is Microsoft, Sony, and AMD have all confirmed that the consoles are currently on track for a launch later this year, and of course that is the official word. They aren't delayed until they are, but of course no corporation will even consider having to delay a carefully planned launch worth hundreds of millions of dollars, causing a massive hit to their bottom line in the process, until they have absolutely no other option. So until it becomes absolutely clear that there is no way the PS5 and Series X will meet their intended release date, we will keep hearing that things are on track, even if they aren't necessarily. There are other ways we're starting to see the coronavirus impact the rollout of next-generation consoles. The most obvious of these is the cancellation of several marketing events. GDC got pushed into summer, Emerald City Comic-Con is delayed, Sony pulled out of PAX East, and even the ESA has announced that it's looking into the possibility of delaying E3 this year if the situation doesn't improve. Sony themselves have been at the forefront of being cautious with the coronavirus, with the aforementioned cancellation of their PAX East appearance. And outside of the gaming sphere, Sony was also the first manufacturer to pull out of the Mobile World Conference in Barcelona back in January. A console launch needs a carefully orchestrated marketing campaign. Even Nintendo, who pushed the limits of how short the lead-up time can be to a console launch with the Switch, then known as NX, announced it 5 months before its launch, opening pre-orders 2 months prior. And if we take that as our upper limit, then Sony especially needs to properly announce the PS5 by June, which is hard to do if justifiable public health concerns keep them pulling out of events. This is not an attempt at fear-mongering, nor is it doomsaying. After all, there's a far greater chance that these consoles do come out this year as planned than not. My intent here is not to convince you that they won't, it's to raise the possibility that they might not, and ask you to at least treat the prospect of that happening seriously, and start to prepare yourself for it. Because in the end, people's lives are far more important than video games, and if Sony and Microsoft have to prioritize the former over favor the latter, we should all support that decision, not criticize it. It's not like there's any shortage of great games to play on our existing consoles in the meantime anyway.
And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, please hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to switch on the notifications bell icon next to it. That way you'll never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.